Well, it's kind of surreal for me to be saying this in 2022, but I guess welcome to the end. I'm your host, Ben Schneider, along with, I guess you guys always used to say equal parts hosts, Liam Carroll and Chase Draus. And I guess maybe I shouldn't be giving myself that title because I know this really was your show back in the day. But how are you guys doing? It's been far too long, I think, since we all got together.
Chase always had some super creative way to call us equal, so I'm sure he has something planned right now to figure it out.
Believe it or not, I got nothing. I have lost that ability just to be quick on my feet with the one-liners, and it's probably a good thing. I'm in a lot less trouble now, so probably for the better. But
yeah, I'm actually very disappointed to say that we're no longer doing the end. We really couldn't do it senior year because of COVID, and also I had to finish my study abroad requirements. But I think from the time the last episode we've had, Capitol got raided. Biden became president. The Celtics came to the finals. And like the landmark decision of Roe v. Wade got overturned. So like we could do like a freaking 6-hour special covering everything. We just obviously do not have
we're not in a recession.
Oh yeah, we're not in a recession.
Not the textbook definition, even though I just read a textbook for my master's program that said that's the exact definition. So probably needs to be updated then, I guess, because what do economists know? Nothing.
Yeah. Well, Liam, as you were saying, I know nothing major has really happened in the last 2 years. So I know we're starved for content here on this show. But
we're still in a pandemic somehow. I stopped wearing a mask, but
yeah. Well, obviously you guys know I prefer the sports content over the political stuff or things like that. But I guess before we get into any topics of discussion here, I want to ask each of you what you've been up to, because it has been a couple of years. I know I graduated in December of 20, and you both have been on my podcast before. So Chase, I guess you were the first one, like episode 12 or so, if I recall correctly. And when I had you on, I know we were just in my dorm room because, funnily enough, bringing up the Scot Radio stuff and not being able to do podcasts, it was like the middle of February and we still hadn't restarted for the spring semester yet, and only got a few weeks of shows in before, obviously the pandemic hit and sent us all home early. So what have you been up to since we graduated from Gordon, and where are you now?
Well, honestly, that's probably when the end truly, I think that was the beginning of the end, pun intended. Because I don't even think Scot Radio is a thing anymore. I think it's technically a publication or something like that, but there's no, like, I still technically have the Instagram, and there's been nothing else on that. Like, I'm pretty sure I could post whatever I wanted on there and they'd just be like, oh, what's going on? But been doing good. Just started my master yesterday for sport management. Worked for the federal government as a federal contractor. That was a wonderful experience. And yeah, just went back to aquatics, and now I'm just focusing on my master's, giving more money to the government because student loans are a pain, but it's expensive. So
I think I heard somewhere that the Tartan was trying to like acquire Scot Radio and kind of have it all under one banner, but I don't know if that ever went anywhere. And like you were saying, Jason, I still follow the Twitter and the Instagram, and I haven't seen any updates since I think you were running the page. I think the most recent post is like coming soon in September of 2020, when we thought we might be making progress.
Soon.
Yeah, coming soon, except it's been 2 years since the last post. So yeah, maybe not too accurate.
Hey, send an email to Ham, and I'm sure he'll actually get something done, because Hammond actually seems to be like, we made so many jokes about Lindsay, but Hammond, I feel like there's no material really. Like, he doesn't set himself up. So it's like, because I know Liam and I used to go to town on him, like trying to get him on the show, like saying all, like, you were kind of like the Young Turks, kind of going at that perspective, and then I was just like an extremely unfunny Steven Crowder. That was about it. and yet somehow we were kept on air. I still don't know how we were, but yeah, it's sad though, because like I still love radio, but it's like, I don't know, we put in all that work and now it's just dead. Kind of stings, but we all know who really is responsible for that, but I don't want to get charged with defamation, so I'm gonna let you if anyone wants to say it, by all means, but
all I'll say is I'm glad I always grab the show files and then archive them to my own channel, because of course the SoundCloud's long gone, and you know, I would hate for there to be no record of the work that we put in, and obviously saved the shows that I was a guest on that you guys were doing. So you know, and Chase, I have to say thank you, because you know, I went into college thinking that I wanted to be a journalism major, and you know, obviously Gordon, you know, it's a lot more broad with their communications program, and I still, you know, would be open to a career path in that, and you know, I'm doing some writing here and there, but you know, if you hadn't invited me on, I think it was by a sports talk at the time, you know, to fill in for Liam when he was going to see Infinity War, you know, I have no idea how far we would have gotten in this journey that I've been on here. So you know, this really is kind of bringing it all full circle for me, and you know, it's great to be speaking with both of you again here, and throwing it back to the Scot Radio days.
yeah, I think no, that was Liam's show though, by Sports Talk. That was like the fun one though. Like,
You and
because I know Sean and I had one. Yeah,
that
we did one. It was
old
like
man
old
and-
guy in the gang, something like that.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, it was old guy in the gang, and we kind of just did advice. And then one, I think it was Caleb Britton asked Bethany to homecoming, and she like didn't know how to handle it. That was like the highlight of the show, where it's just like her freaking out because somebody asked her to homecoming, which is also ironic because nobody asked anyone to homecoming at Gordon. It's kind of just like, oh, hey, look, free food. That's not absolute, you know, dog water. Okay, cool, I'm in. And then that was it. Like, that show went to nowhere. But then Liam and I started the end, and well, I mean, the rest is history at that point. So
yeah, I'd like to think we were Scot Radio's most successful show because we had like 5 listeners, but I don't think they have metrics for that.
Yeah. Well, and then you know, I had obviously my racing show, The Photo Finish. I know, Chase, you were my guest co-host for several episodes there, and then obviously starting the show that I'm going to make this podcast we're doing right now a part of, the Ben Schneider Show, and you know, doing 2 shows at once, plus sometimes being a recurring guest on your show was, you know, quite a bit of work. And again, you know, Liam, I'm with you. I'd like to think, you know, I don't mean to be prideful in saying this, but I hope that maybe some people could have thought of me as kind of like the face of Scot Radio, or us as the face of, you know, the outlet there, you know, with how much we were doing and how often we were in there. I feel like we were probably in there more often than the executives for GCSA were in that booth. So it's you know, we did put a lot of work into that, and you know, I don't know, hopefully for the sake of the students at Gordon now, that somebody can step up and get that restarted, because I think it was a great opportunity for us to hone our skills, and you know, obviously it was a lot of fun doing those, and I would hope that those students can get the same opportunities that we had. But judging by the Instagram, again, I don't think there's been very much activity in these last couple of years here.
I mean, but I gotta give a lot of credit to Liam though, because honestly, dude, if it was just me on that microphone, like, I don't know how you did by a sports talk, just talking to yourself like that. Like, it really was a team effort. And then like having like all 3 of us there, I'm listening to some of the shows over in like Boston Sports Radio, and I'm like, I feel like we could do a better job. Like, they just are like, they're having people call in, and it's like, you're stupid and this is why, and then hung up the phone. It's like, but that's not even close to what he was saying. Why are you saying this at all?
I saw a quote of, I forget where, I think it was on Twitter. They were like, the worst sports media in all of the country is absolutely in Boston, because no one hates Boston sports more than Boston sports writers. When you're hearing freaking stories about, oh, the Celtics need to trade Jason Tatum, he doesn't work. They need to trade Jaylen Brown, he's not living up to his potential. And then literally within that same season, the team ends up going to the finals and taking 2 games from the Warriors. Like, it just shows people have no idea what they're talking about. And I do have a piece of good news for you, Chase. Because of your influence, I am now much more conservative.
I mean, hey, dude, I'm technically a libertarian now because of you. So, I mean,
I had the opposite effect. I told you my views, and then you went even more conservative.
Yeah,
I mean, like with the economy, yeah, but now I'm just kind of at the point where it's like, if you want to be gay, smoke weed, and shoot an M16 off the back of your pickup truck, that's fine. Just don't tell me what to do and spend my money. Like, that's literally where I'm at right now. So,
I don't know. I guess you could say I'm a radical centrist, if that's the term these days. I just think that because I've seen those memes of like it's the guy like kind of in center left, and he says like my fellow liberal, and then the conservatives all the way over here, and that's like 2008, and then by 2012 he's in the center, and then now he's actually center right because the left has marched so far to the progressive side and the radical side, if you will. But I just feel like, you know, with the rise of Trump and everything, I think the political right has done the same thing as in many respects. So I'm just kind of sitting here like I can't get on board with either of the extremes. I want people to leave me alone, to be reasonable, be sensible, and if we can recognize that we actually, at the end of the day, probably have more in common with each other than what divides us, maybe that's how we can move forward here. I don't know if that's, you know, completely 100% morally sound or the way to go, but I think that, you know, I find myself more comfortable in that position than on either of the extremes these days. I maybe still lean a little bit to the right because I did grow up in a very conservative bubble, if you will, with, you know, high school and my family and everything. But, you know, going to college, being exposed to different worldviews and different perspectives, I think kind of opened my mind a little bit more. But yeah, I don't know. Everything's just so crazy these days. You know, I can't get on board with the polarization of the extremes on either side of things.
Just anyone, really.
Yeah.
I think outside of maybe you're not even a centrist, you're just kind of indifferent at this point.
Sure.
Where
Yeah.
Everything sucks. Everyone sucks. Just just stay off
a
Twitter.
very concerned political person.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, speaking of you know, extreme, Liam, how you been, bud? It's been I realized sorry, that was a really bad transition because I'm like, oh yeah,
no, it's fine. That was right where I was going.
Right,
You know?
I'm like, I didn't want to leave him out.
Quick. Yeah.
So what was super funny is I graduated in May with Chase, and you know, I was unemployed for 3 months before I could find a job. I feel though that's pretty typical. During that time I moved down to Atlanta to live with my parents. And I ended up getting a job as a youth counselor at a juvenile detention center in Peabody, Massachusetts. So I went from the Gordon area down to Atlanta just to move back up to the area. So I'm working in a detention center right now with a lot of gang kids on violent charges. And I've been doing that for about the past year or so.
Well, Liam, I got to say, I like the hoodie that you got
my
on right
federal
now.
job, so
The WNBA hoodie. Yeah.
I appreciate it. Yeah, no, I mean, I've been paying attention to the WNBA a bit more. I think partially due to the Brittany Griner stuff and a lot of the injustice they're facing. Also, it's not a soap opera, which is kind of nice because I love basketball. But when there's a freaking Kevin Durant update on his trades and his entire life for the past month and a half just to find out, oh yeah, no, he's actually staying with the Nets, and all this drama is nothing. I'm just like, you know what? I'm much more content watching Delle Donne and Asia Wilson go after each other. That's much better and not as dramatic.
Well, I tell you, I guess that's maybe a good starting point, you know, to launch the sports discussion here, because I've been watching a little bit more of the WNBA too, and I've got to say, you know, just in my personal journey as a sports fan, I used to completely just crap on the WNBA, you know, because I think that's just the popular thing for teenage boys on social media to do. But at the end of the day, you know, as I grew a little bit older, you know, I've recognize, I'm a basketball fan. There's not really a whole lot of other basketball on this time of year. And, being from Delaware, Elena Deladon is, kind of like a local celebrity here. And, kind of got into it a little bit. I know when she was with the Chicago Sky, they actually played a couple of preseason games at the University of Delaware. And, been following her career ever since she was in the WNBA and everything. And then, obviously what's going on right now with Brittany Griner is, a very sad and troubling situation there. I'm certainly hoping for the best for her and everybody involved. But I have to say, it's not the NBA. And if I have a choice between watching an NBA game or a WNBA game, I'm probably going to pick the NBA game. But, this time of year when, there's no other basketball on, it's still basketball at the end of the day. And I still, got a lot of enjoyment watching it. I was watching the, I guess it was the Storm and the Mystics in the first round. Again, watching that because Deladon's in Washington now. And, it was a close, exciting game that came down to the wire. And, you got, the compelling storylines of, Sue Bird and this being her final year. And, obviously Seattle still has a passionate basketball fan base, even though their team is now in Oklahoma City and no longer Sonics. So it's, if you look hard enough, if you follow it closely enough, I think there's still a good level of enjoyment to get out of it.
Absolutely. I feel as though one thing that comes with being an NBA fan is you can't just be kind of like a casual fan. You have to be all into it. You have to know the players, the history, and the drama. And the NBA has kind of really leaned into that because of the entertainment factor and the storylines that it creates. But it's really kind of pushed me away because I think in general, I'm more of a traditionalist when it comes to sports. So in that sense, I've actually started watching more baseball because in a weird way, that's less drama, and I could watch that casually and not have to pay attention to what Javier Baez said to Wilson Contreras and them starting beef on Twitter and all this stuff. Like, it's upsetting when like Patrick Beverly and Kevin Durant get into beef and Bleacher Report starts tweeting about it. And I'm just like, this is a meaningless conversation that will go nowhere. And these guys will exchange mean glances on the court. And that's that. It's much less about basketball and more about storylines, which is somewhat upsetting.
I think you kind of have to go at it. What was that viral video that went around where it's like the dogs barking between the gate and then you pull the gate up and then all of a sudden they're just kind of like just sitting there? I feel like that's a lot of the NBA. It's like they're just jawing at each other, just going back and forth, hurling insults, and it's like, all right, who's gonna throw the first punch? I like the sponsorships, man. Just I'll make sure to DM you on Twitter. We'll say we made up that way, but I mean, it's starting to infect the NFL now too, because you're starting to get all the drama there where it's like, oh, well, Russell Wilson's revenge tour in Seattle. And then you got, well, granted, this one's actually warranted. Deshaun Watson's first game back is against the Houston Texans.
Yeah, that wasn't
Houston.
A coincidence. There's no way.
That was definitely a coincidence. And you know what? I am all for it because, I mean, Jacksonville is Jacksonville. I mean, their GM is literally a wrestling promoter. No lie, you can actually Google that. But just like they were chanting all these things, like obscene things. Like I don't want to cuss on your show. I don't want to actually have to make you bleep it out. But it's like, you sick, fill in the blank. Think about 26. Like the number of people, allegations, like. All of these, like, they got really creative, and that's Jacksonville. That stadium was empty. Imagine it in Philly. Imagine it in, Cowboys Stadium. Imagine it. Philly's gonna ruin him.
They threw batteries at Santa Claus. Imagine what they're going to do to him.
Well, can I just tell you guys that reminds me. I went to the Phillies Mets game on Saturday. We had tickets for it was a makeup game, so it was a day-night doubleheader. So we were supposed to go in June. It got rained out and got postponed to this weekend. And there is a guy who I think he's like an Army veteran with 7-line Army. You know, I don't want to tell the story, you know, in too fully here because I'm going to get part of it wrong. But basically, he's a diehard Mets fan. He has this group of traveling Mets fans that, you know, travel the country every season, and this was their stop in Philly. And so there was like 5 sections consisting of 1,500 screaming Mets fans at the ballpark. So you might as well have been at Citi Field. You know, it really felt like an away game. And because it's a makeup game, they didn't have like a celebrity to throw out the first pitch or any of the ceremonial stuff like that at the start of a game. So the Phillies said, basically, thank you for buying 1,500 tickets. As a reward, how would you like to throw out the first pitch in a Mets jersey in Philadelphia? So we're watching this guy in a Mets jersey, and the fanatic was playing along with it because he's playing catcher and he, you know, just kind of lets the ball go by as the pitch is going. But I'm just thinking, this is not going to go over well. Like the Philly fans seeing a guy in a New York Mets jersey throw the first pitch at Citizens Bank Park. What do you think? You're just asking for trouble there. You know what I'm saying? Like that. Who thought that was a good idea?
Needless to say, he had some very lovely sticky notes on his car in the parking lot.
And it totally set the mood because they lost 8-2. So it was like, you know, Mets fans take over the ballpark. Basically, admit defeat before the first pitch of the game. I mean, it was depressing.
I'm even heading later this year. My roommate and I got tickets to go to a Bruins Flyers game. When I was talking about it, I'm like, yeah, if we go to like Bruins Golden Knights, we'll witness a fight. If we go to a Bruins Flyers game, we'll be involved in the fights. So I'm like, let's go to that one. That's going to be a lot of fun. Boston and Philly fans going at each other. Oof. Let's just hope it's not $2 beer night or whatever promotion TV decides to have.
Just make sure it's not any free souvenirs because those will be thrown at players. Just a lovely shout out and callback to when Alexander Ovechkin. What even was that night? I know it was like, I think they had like some weird like glow stick or something like that, and like they were honoring like their GM or something, and they took a couple shots at Alexander Ovechkin, and then during the moment of silence, they're all screaming at Ovechkin, and then they were getting absolutely obliterated, so they all decided to throw all the glow sticks on the ice, and it's like, at what point are Philly fans just going to be like, you know, I think our actions have consequences?
Oh, they totally, I think, embraced it at that point, because even if you look at all the drama with Ben Simmons, like, feel like 76er fans, I will say, played a part in getting him off the team, because obviously it was his own fault. I'm not going to fault the Philly fans whatsoever, but Simmons refusing to play, and even you can trace it back to that one moment where he has a wide open layup in the playoffs and stops because 6'0" Trae Young is there defending him. Philly fans gave him more crap than I think anyone. They're definitely part of the reason why he wanted to leave and why he was eventually traded to Brooklyn. When Simmons, I'm sure the Nets are going to play the Sixers at some point next year in Philadelphia. He's totally gonna come down with a sickness during that game, like the one Kyrie had. Like it's gonna be brutal.
Yeah, I can almost personally guarantee you he will not be there whenever the Nets come back to Philly. I know he sat the entire rest of the season out last year. But everybody was like, after the trade happened, they said, "Oh, Brooklyn comes to the Wells Fargo Center on March 10th. Everybody buy your tickets." And I'm like, guys, he's not going to be there. I can guarantee you he will not be there.
It's definitely gonna be some sort of family emergency or something like that. He might actually, like, I know fans got a little rowdy. You know, there were instances of like dumping popcorn on players' heads or throwing.
That was awful. Yeah,
that's entirely wrong. You should never. It's not an assault, but never get physical with a player. Simmons might actually get mugged. Like, he's gonna leave his wallet and keys at home.
He's gonna take that leave of absence, like Tom Brady did with the Bucks, just going to the Bahamas with his wife for personal reasons.
Oh no, he was on the Masked
Gonna
Singer.
refund the tickets.
That's what they're saying. He's going to be on the Masked Singer.
Oh, I heard that.
Because he signed a deal with Fox whenever he actually retires, and to promote that, Fox wants him on the Masked Singer, so that's why he's been gone for the last 2 weeks. Makes
So
perfect sense, right?
That actually seems like something he would do. Brady confuses me because he retired, and I'm like, all right, he's 42, he retired. I respect it. You're going down like that. And then I'm freaking bowling with my family one day, and like one of the TVs comes on Sports Center. Tom Brady unretires. I'm like, why was I surprised? Why was I surprised? This guy is gonna play until he's 70, and in throwing balls under center from a wheelchair. Like that's definitely what's gonna happen.
And he's still gonna have a better season than Colin Kaepernick. I'm sorry. It's just I saw something where it's like he's still ready. I'm like, you're 37, dude. Like, was it 37, 36, something like that? It's like, you no.
I'll tell you, I'm not convinced Edelman and Gronk are completely done either. I think they might still have, an itch left to scratch here if it's week 8 or something and they want to get back into it. I know Gronk has a injury history and he wants to be careful there, but I'm not convinced either way that either of them's completely done either. So we'll wait and see what happens on that front. But
I could see Gronk coming back. I could not see Edelman coming back. Edelman's knee is done, but Gronk, maybe if he's allowed to have the CBD product he's using. Oh yeah, no, he'll be back.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, regardless of what you think of Brady, it just amazes me that he's, literally in his mid 40s now and is still, I think, what was he, second in MVP voting last year? Aaron Rodgers won it, I think, but Brady was right there, in the conversation. So
I saw a video that a commentary YouTuber called Drew Gooden did, where he said he eats he lives like Tom Brady for a month, and he did a lesser version of Tom Brady's workouts. He drank something like 200 ounces of water a day, took all Brady's supplements, and at the end he was just like, he's like, I'm definitely healthier, but like I haven't had food with flavor in about a month. He's like, I don't understand how you could live like this for maybe like 10, 15 years. He's like, it's effective, obviously. He's like, I don't think I could do that ever.
Yeah. Well, didn't Gronk try the TB12 thing for a little while and it did not go very well at all, so he was off it right away?
Yeah, that definitely sounds like something Gronk would do. Gronk, I'm convinced, somehow still has a six-pack while drinking a keg of beer a day.
Imagine what he does if he stops drinking. Gonna be seeing Zeus.
Legitimately, yeah. You'd get in Marvel shape.
Watch out, Chris Hemsworth. He's coming for Thor.
Well, guys, I guess to draw it a little bit back to basketball. I know, Chase, you're a Boston sports fan in everything except football, right? You're a Jets fan, but everywhere else, it's Boston.
Yeah, everywhere else, and even with the Jets, I have the small glimmer of hope. I always say I have hope, but this year I actually do have it. So the game last night was as much excitement as you can get out of a preseason game. Just beautiful watching some random CFL guy tear apart the Atlanta Falcons starters. Just wonderful. But yeah, but I don't know. It's weird. I'm growing a soft spot for the Patriots, believe it or not. Hell froze over, but I think having to listen to Boston sports radio, them worship Mac Jones, it's like, I want you to do well just so you stop talking about how, like, just like worshiping, like, everything they do. It's just like, and then I thought they were annoying when they were doing well. When they're doing terrible, it's worse. So I'm like, okay, can you just be competitive? Maybe get a playoff spot just so I don't have to listen to you guys every single day about everything. But no, I think Mac Jones is definitely going to be an elite quarterback in the league, though. It's my one spicy take for the night. But
well, I just wanted to draw it back to the finals this year because I know, obviously, Liam, you're a big Boston sports fan as well. I don't think anybody really saw the Warriors getting back to the level they were at as quickly as they did. And then the Celtics as well, I think were, really kind of middle of the pack, in around time of the holidays and everything. And then they just took off and ended up going on this run to the finals. And I think the better team probably won in the end, but Boston looks primed to, be a contender for the next few years. So how closely did you guys pay attention to the finals, and where do you think, your Celtics stand here as we move forward into the upcoming season?
First of all, I just have to mention Marcus Smart, Defensive Player of the Year, first guard to win it in something like 30 years since Gary Payton. So well deserved. You can throw up any advanced defensive war, the Raptor, whatever advanced stat you want to give. When Marcus Smart is on the floor, he changes the game. He plays like he is still fighting for us a bench spot in the G League. He dives on every ball. He does everything, and I love him. Plus, his name is so much fun to say with a Boston accent. Marcus Smart. Like, that's just, he's the perfect Boston player. I love this. All right, that's my Marcus Smart rant, just because I love him. But like you mentioned before, I think the Celtics were, treading water in like a 9 or 10 seed. There was even questions about whether they would make the playoffs. And the big difference, I'd say, that changed them was the coaching. Ime Udoka, it came out, and apparently they said the turning point was after a Knicks game where they had like a 23-point lead, and he comes out and like they blow it. RJ Barrett, I think, hits a buzzer beater. Knicks end up beating the Celtics, and in the locker room, Udoka just goes off on them. He says, "You guys know you are better than this." And then in film the next day, he's calling people out like, "Hey Tatum, why'd you do that? Hey, Williams, what are you doing here? What is that?" And I think that was the main difference, where the Celtics players, they were so young and they needed someone to step up and be a leader. And Udoka came out and did that. And he knew how to speak to these guys. He took control of the team. He took charge and was the leader the team needed. He was a lot different than Brad Stevens, and already his style is paying off. I mean, that run to go on, no one could touch them. They beat Brooklyn in 4, which you love that. Everyone hates Kyrie. And they come down and they beat Giannis and the Bucks in a hard-fought 7-game series when they were down 3-2. Like, you got to give props to them. I mean, Giannis was incredible. Somehow a 90-year-old Al Horford was better. And then you come to the Heat series, another incredibly coached team. 7 games. It was a defensive war. It was a literal war, you could tell. And at the end, I feel as though the biggest problem in the finals, they were so physically exhausted. I think they played more basketball than any other team at that point in the entire playoffs. And to come in versus the Warriors, an experienced team with an all-time great like Steph Curry and a phenomenal coach in Steve Kerr, and somehow Andrew Wiggins is playing to his potential. I mean, I think it's just because he's not playing for Minnesota anymore. But Golden State was the perfect team to go against the Celtics because they dominated the Celtics' weaknesses. And I wasn't mad at the final series. The Celtics played poorly, but to blame it on that is it would be inappropriate because the Warriors beat the Celtics, plain and simple. And you have to give props to that. All right, Chase wants to say something, so I'm gonna end my rant.
I'm gonna disagree with you on this one. I'm gonna disagree with you on this one because I think, apparently Jason Tatum had like a chip in his wrist, like a bone chip or whatever. So I mean that will play a factor, but then again, it's also, it's the storyline. It's, he's gonna play it up to, avoid criticism because he's supposed to be the top guy. He's supposed to be one of the top 5 players in the NBA. He's not playing like that. So, I mean, take it as you will, but the Celtics turnovers, I'd say even if you cut on them by half, because at least half of them were just stupid, boneheaded decisions. Not even just kind of like quick spur of the moment mistakes, but just boneheaded moves. Cut those in half, it's a game 7. It's a 7-game series. And at that point, if the Warriors win that one, it's, you know what? Steph Curry's being Steph Curry. Steph Curry's being probably one of the best guards of all time. But the turnovers on that one, I think it was, who was it? I think it was Grant Williams. They said, no, we gave him that series. Like, if we cut on the turnovers, that's, a different series. And quite frankly, I'm inclined to agree, and that was the same thing. You saw that with the Heat series. The Bucks, that was a 7-game series. And if they have Middleton, it's still a 7-game series, but I still think the Celtics win. It's just, Giannis isn't as, tired, basically. But, that Heat series should not have been 7 games. That should have been 5. There was, I think it was in game, I want to say it was either 6 or 7, or no, it was 5 or 6, that it was just like, what are you doing? Like, they should have shut it. Like, they should have shut them down. I cannot justify the Heat series at all. And then it bled into the Warriors series. So I'm still, you can tell I'm frustrated because I'm literally getting myself tongue-tied over it. But I mean, the Celtics have promise, though, because their big three is finally starting to play together. And I think if Jaylen Brown can take that next step and be, not just a, all-star, but like, oh, hey, he's actually like an elite player now, it's going to be, a lot different of a story. And then Mount Brogdon. Brad Stevens, I'm warming up to you as GM because that was a wonderful signing, wonderful trade. And then Gallinari was exactly what they needed because, I mean, what is he, like 45% from 3? I mean, what team is going to say no to that?
Insane like that. He averaged 13 points off the bench last year on very good shooting splits. And like you mentioned, Brogdon, somehow the Celtics got him, and in return, the Pacers got a bag of chips. I'm not even like kidding. I think they actually gave him a bag of chips, and they said, okay, here's Malcolm Brogdon. Like, I forget the exact trade, but to not give up.
I think it was Tice, Neesmith, bench Juwan Morgan, and I think a second.
Malik Fitz or something, and then a second round pick or maybe a first and a second. But to give up
they didn't give up a first.
They didn't give up a first? I can't even remember this trade of how, because it was like, but yeah, so Stevens, I think, is showing he's a better GM than a coach, which is fine. But yeah, no, I mean, simply put, Celtics got to steal with Malcolm Brogdon. There's still some questions about whether he's going to start. Is he going to come off the bench? But I think overall, no matter where he goes from, no matter where he comes from, he's going to make a huge impact, especially defensively. It's amazing that this team was 2 games away from hoisting banner number 18, and they only got better. Like, significantly better, without question. And now I think that everyone's used to Udoka figuring stuff out. That's going to be the big thing, is people have now bought into Udoka. He was a first-year coach, and he's acting like he's a 20-year coach because he comes under the Popovich system. So, honestly, I'm still saying Udoka's the X factor here because I don't think this team could have gone past the second round under Stevens.
Well, I have to remind you, Liam, Brett Brown came under the Popovich system as well. And, you know how I feel about that.
I have no comeback. To any Brett Brown argument.
Although, I don't know. Are we sure Doc Rivers got you guys a championship? Did he really do that?
Kevin Garnett got us that championship.
You could have thrown... I was 10 at the time. You could have thrown 10-year-old me in the coaching spot, and the Celtics still would have won the championship. Like, Doc, I think, he's, I think, maybe the luckiest coach of all time.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
Is he still the coach of the Sixers?
What is it? He
No.
hasn't made it past the second
Is it not?
round in like 10 years.
Yeah. That's the thing. Doc could never get out of the second round when he was with the Clippers. That's what they were always known. Was it Chris Paul or was it Doc or was it both?
Blake Griffin,
Like at least Chris Paul made a finals. Yeah. But yeah, Doc can't get out of the second round. The Sixers haven't gotten out of the second round since they went to the finals with Iverson in 01. So they both kind of have that ceiling there.
And I have to mention this because I've spoken to you privately about this on Twitter. Joel Embiid deserved to be MVP last year.
Yeah.
I want to be clear here. I have a Boston Red Sox tattoo. I love the Celtics with all my heart, and I hate the Sixers. Full offense, Ben. I want you to feel bad that I hate the Sixers.
Oh yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah.
And Joel Embiid still deserved MVP. He had more points, more rebounds, and he was still one of the best defensive centers.
But the metrics, Liam, the metrics all were in complete agreement. The analytics, they all
started on the
Jokic on every point to the Joker on every one.
Who's that? Oh, who's that guy? Nick, some sports analyst, Nick something, who's like
Nick Wright
or something. He was like, he gave all these. I think someone gave all these like war, offensive Raptor, defensive Raptor, all this stuff to show for Jokic, and I'm like, and even he comes out and is like, who freaking cares? Points, rebounds, assists, the main ones everyone's accepted for years is more important. I'm like, I freaking agree with Nick Wright. When is that a thing? I agree with him.
Embiid got robbed. There's no way around it. Embiid got robbed. I mean,
I just like, I always go back
justify.
You can't go ahead, Jace. You can't justify what?
No, you can't justify Jokic. There's no justification for him when you just look purely at a stats standpoint. And sorry, I keep cutting you off on multiple occasions. That's probably because I'm a half a second behind you because I have literally my PlayStation 5 updating. I have my PS4 downloading at like a 45 gigabyte game. So I do apologize for that. But
it's always tougher when it's all virtual. We're not like in the studio together. But I will say, Jokic had a very good year. Very good.
Oh, no
very good does not make you the most valuable player. And if you take Embiid, especially in the absence of Simmons and everything that he was going through the first half of the year and the trade requests and all those distractions, Embiid no doubt was carrying Philadelphia. Even when James Harden got there, we'll see. Hopefully, I'm hopeful Harden can bounce back. I still think he was bothered by his hamstring a little bit. He looks like he's in the best shape he's been in years. So keep your fingers crossed. I'm not expecting Houston James Harden. I want a competent second option here, and I think we'll be in good shape. But even when he got there, Harden was carrying the team. The second option was Tyrese Maxey, who's younger than any of us are, and I think I love Maxey. He's going to be a superstar if the trajectory keeps going the way it is. But he wasn't going to be the playmaking difference, at this age, at this point in his career, to get you over that hump. So you take Embiid off the Sixers, where would the Sixers be? They're a fringe play-in tournament team at best. And I think that strengthens Embiid's case as what does the award stand for? Everybody talks about it being the best player, but you want to talk about being valuable to the 76ers. Joel Embiid, he might be the most valuable athlete in the entire city of Philadelphia right now.
Yeah, and if we wanted to go by the best player standard, like if we're being honest, LeBron James will get it every single year.
That's true, no doubt.
LeBron's consistently the best.
Not this year.
This year he wasn't too great, but it just the pure dominance that Embiid had is unbelievable. Jokic literally got it because he makes cool passes and he got skinny. That was literally the only reason why he got it. And I recognize game no matter where it comes from. And Embiid is a top 3 player in the NBA right now. Undoubtedly the best center in the league, but a top 3 player in the league, I think.
Well, maybe not because Jokic won the MVP. So, but you can sense the sarcasm, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I mean, there's
congratulations
no argument
on
against that, though.
yeah, congratulations on leading
There's
your
no
team
argument
to the
for
6th seed. Yeah, the 6th seed in the first round playoff.
exactly.
I mean, I thought the Sixers couldn't get to their full potential, and a second round exit again was a pathetic way to end the season. But look at how Denver turned out. That's your MVP.
It was nothing. They got knocked off by the Warriors in what, 5 games?
They were never going to beat the Warriors, if we're being honest. The Warriors were probably, too good to be a 3 seed. And then obviously, I mean, I got to say, Chris Paul's always been one of my favorite non-Sixers, because I think he has a really humble origin story, and I know he's an acquired taste that people tend to either love him or hate him. But I feel like he's just been through a bit of a checkered injury past, and he's bounced around here or there. So I was very excited when the Suns went up 2-0 in the finals last year. And I love Giannis too, and I'm glad Giannis. I mean, that epic 50-point performance in Game 6. I mean, they totally deserve that championship and everything. But I thought Phoenix did the same thing that you guys were just saying the Celtics are going to do. They made the finals and then got better and had the best record in the league this season. And then they get bounced out in 7 games by a tough Dallas Mavericks team and end up, I mean, what were they down 47 points at one point in Game 7 in their home arena?
They got.
You want to talk about a pathetic performance and a letdown?
They got beat so bad that the team actually put out an official apology to the fans. Not even for, hey, we acted poorly as an organization. Not even, hey, we apologize for the actions of this player. It doesn't reflect us. It's, we were defeated at the game of basketball so soundly in the second round of the playoffs. We are sorry that we are bad at the sport we play. It's unbelievable. I've never seen that before.
Cost me $30 because the Suns were my pick. But
that's why I don't get.
I mean, it's gonna be interesting though, because like it's gonna be legal in Massachusetts soon. Everybody keeps talking about it, and I kind of hope that it does, because I think it's a great revenue for taxing and stuff like that. But at the same time, like, do we really want Boston sports fans to have more of a reason to lose their mind over games? Like, do we really want this? Because like I was like we were playing, like I went to a Bruins game and they were playing the LA Kings, and like there was one guy celebrating because the Kings won in overtime, and like literally they're about to beat the tar out of the poor guy. Well, he's just celebrating because his team won, and then they're literally like, we're about to beat the living hell out of this guy. Like, and I'm like, oh dude, imagine if somebody actually put money on that. He would have stole his wallet and his keys and everything. It's just like, do we really need that at this point for Boston?
The second that Bill Belichick decides to run out the clock instead of going for a field goal for the extra insurance points, and someone doesn't hit the over because of it, there will be rioting in Quincy markets.
All right, guys. So I want your perspective on this as people from the Boston area. And Chase, you can speak maybe more to the hockey aspect as well, but would you rather go to a Boston sporting event in Philly gear or go to a Philly sporting event in Boston gear? Which one would you be more concerned for your personal safety at?
Mm-hmm.
I remember one time, I've been to Citizens Bank Park one time. It was Red Sox versus the Phillies. Not really a rivalry. And this was back in, like, I want to say 2012, 2011. Sox weren't very good that year. I think Phillies were a championship team at that point, or maybe just coming off a championship.
Well, if it was 11, they should have won that year.
Okay.
Cliff Lee had a pretty dismal postseason performance in the divisional series, but they had a 100-win season. Cole Hamels was 4th in the rotation that year. That speaks to the pitching staff that they had. So
yeah. So I remember I was there with my dad and my brother, and we were up in kind of the cheap seats, and John Lackey was pitching, and the obscenities that I heard being yelled at by Phillies fans was insane, because, and even this is a nothing regular season game. Interplay games don't even really count for that much. They count as like a fifth tiebreaker. So to get it to like that, Philly terrifies me. Like, in Boston, we're kind of used to like fans getting rowdy and whatnot. Philly utterly terrifies me. So I'd say I'd rather be a Philly fan in Boston. I think that would be better for personal safety.
I have Liam with me. I would have absolutely no fear because, I mean, the two of us, like, I don't like people will jaw back and forth, but I mean, I think when they see, the Mountain's younger brother, I think we'll be okay. But in like, but also, is it a playoff game? Because a playoff game, nobody's safe. Doesn't matter how big you are. If they have 3 beers, it's over. They'll spend the night in prison. They don't care. But I mean, I think I'd probably be a Boston fan in Philly. And I mean, for the hockey aspect, yeah, man, I might have, like, obviously I'm going to hear some, chirping back and forth, but like Eagles fan, like, that would actually kind of be scary.
No.
And I mean, they threw batteries at Santa Claus. Like, I mean, they literally cheered when the opposing team starting quarterback had to get stretchered off the field. Like, they are insane.
Yeah, I forget,
But I
forget
feel like
who it
it'd
was.
just be an
Yeah, I forget who it was. I don't know if it was, it might have been Michael Irvin or something. But my mother remembers growing up watching a Cowboys Eagles game at in Philadelphia, and I again I'm not sure. I think it was Irvin. I don't know who the player was, for sure, but he was down for a while and not moving, and the fans started cheering, and then as soon as he started to sit up, they started booing, and I mean that's just that's your. I just think that's like only in Philadelphia could you have fans that I really shouldn't even be laughing because it's awful, but at the same time it's like you want your representation of how Philly sports fans behave and how they feel about their rivals. Like I wouldn't. I'll say this: I can't speak to how Dallas fans feel, but I wouldn't want to show up at Lincoln Financial Field in a Cowboys jersey. That might be like I'll go to TD Garden in an Embiid shirt any day over wearing a Dak Prescott or Tony Romo jersey to the link.
I think a more recent example, I think this year with the Phillies, one of the earlier games in the year, there was one of their rookies, Bryson Stott, who's quite good, honestly. I think he was like their top prospect for a while, made 3 errors in 1 inning. And then he finally, ball gets hit to him again. He picks it up and throws it over, and the crowd just starts sarcastically cheering for him. And it's like, yeah, that's how they treat their own players. And like, he was cool about it. He said, no, these fans are passionate. I want them to hold me accountable. He had a good attitude about it, but I'm just like, I couldn't even imagine the team I play for actively rooting against me and stuff I did. Like that's just an insane thought that could happen in Philly.
And I think it depends a lot more on the situation with the sports as well. Because, I remember when I first got to Gordon, I was thinking to myself, it's probably going to be easier to pick up Red Sox and Patriots than it is Celtics and Bruins just because of the way the divisions line up. I know that the Eagles and Patriots have met in the Super Bowl a couple times, and, Patriots are one of those teams that everybody loves to hate. But even then, they only meet once every 4 years unless they happen to meet in the Super Bowl. So I don't know if you can really consider it a rivalry in the sense that, Eagles, Cowboys, Eagles, Giants, Eagles, I guess I have to say Commanders now, is a rivalry in the NFC East. But I think the city rivalries between Philly and Boston, Philly, New York, they can sometimes get tense no matter what sport you're playing. But when you take the divisions into account as well, that's when I think it obviously gets the most heated because you have legitimate reasons to really not like each other. And again, I think probably a Cowboys or Giants jersey, at a home Eagles game is probably the one thing that I would never even dare consider doing because of, personal fears for my personal safety.
And we're normal compared to England soccer.
Oh, good.
That is true.
I saw a story from one actor. I think had like his wife's family was Brazilian or from a Latin American country. I'll leave it at that. And they said they were going to a game. It's like, oh, you want to go to a game? It's like, yeah, sure. Like they had to have literally escorted into the stadium by police because the fans were really like before the face-off even happened, or the kickoff rather. And the fans were ready to go at each other and kill each other. Like soccer in any part of the world except for America is so insane.
I mean, just Google some of their chants. It's like like this one went around a lot on Instagram and TikTok, where it's like, like we hate Tottenham, and it's like this whole choreographed thing, and yet they're still able to do it from memory. I'm like, I don't even have enough dedication to learn Bible verses anymore. Like, it's like, oh yeah, I think it's in Matthew, but it's like they're able to memorize it like that and quote it like literally just like that. I'm like at that point, it's not sport, it's religion, man. Like they are insane. And yeah, Jesus. England soccer, man. Like truthfully, I would fear for my life if I was wearing a Liverpool jersey at a Man U game. That is when I would fear for my life, because that would mean I'm getting shivved and my organs are getting sold. Like that's how it's gonna go.
Have I told you guys the story of when I went to London in 10th grade? I have cousins and my aunt and uncle over there.
I don't think so, no.
So when they were over in the States, like I would guess probably 8th grade or freshman year of high school, my uncle, he had a job transfer out there when I was in 6th grade. He's lived out in London with his family ever since. And he's a big baseball, big soccer fan, big New York sports fan, and a big Spurs fan, Tottenham Hotspur. And he basically told me, whenever you come to visit, you're allowed to wear a Yankees jersey or a Spurs jersey. Yeah, everything else is off limits. And so, being the Einstein that I am, right before we went to leave, I went out and bought a Tim Duncan San Antonio Spurs shirt. Ended up wearing that on the plane, and we get to his we get to his house, and he looks at me and he says, "So how in the bloody hell did you get to be a Spurs fan? You're not from San Antonio." And then I explained the story, and I tell him, "You said Yankees or Spurs, and I could never choose the Yankees, so I went ahead with the Spurs." And he just, he took it very well and everything. But that's kind of my, I guess, because I go against him on every American sport. I guess I'm a very casual soccer fan, so I guess if I had to choose a Premier League team, it would probably be the Spurs. Just because I'm against him in every other sport anyway, so why not team up with him on that one? But that always was kind of an amusing story to tell when we got back. So
the extent of my soccer knowledge is just what I've learned from Ted Lasso, which, by the way, phenomenal show. Everyone should watch Ted Lasso. It's really good. But soccer is it's you definitely have to love it, and to have that passionate, rabid fan base about it. I respect soccer fans for it. Football, I don't know, they're gonna get mad. I don't know if you have any passionate European fan subscribers on YouTube, but I'd get torn apart.
I guess they can go rant in the comments if they make themselves known, but not that I know of any that are super active or anything. But that's actually we want to stay on the subject of soccer. I totally agree with you, Liam. I think Ted Lasso is phenomenal, and I've got to admit, I keep up with so many live sports and things like that. It's hard for me to sit down and just binge something. So I got around to binging the first season, and the way the first season ended, I was like, well, okay, I can't end it on that. So I watched the first episode of season 2, and have been meaning to pick it back up, and I haven't gotten any further here. I feel like I've done an okay job of avoiding spoilers, but at this point, I feel like it's my own fault. So I don't want you to feel like you can't spoil anything for me here. And I think season 3 is going to be the final season. Is that right? It's supposed to drop.
I know it got, after season 1, it got renewed for 2 seasons. Whether season 3 is going to be the last, I don't know. but it's definitely one of those shows where I think the creators are aware that once they're out of ideas, they're out of ideas. They don't want to push it, which is sad because all the really good shows end very soon for that reason. But yeah, season 3 very well may be the last season. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, SpongeBob comes to mind, right away if you want to talk about shows that probably should have ended a long time ago, but Nickelodeon, recognizes that it's such a cash cow for them that they can't help but keep the thing running and making new episodes.
Freaking Simpsons are the same way.
Yeah, sure.
Now they got purchased by Disney. It's just they have the Simpsons doing they own the rights to the characters, so they have them doing these promos for different shows where like Homer is Iron Man and like Bart is Loki and stuff, and it's just so corporate that it's upsetting because the Simpsons used to be like anti-corporate and stuff, but Disney will soon be our overlords and everything has to go through them and be approved by them, so we might as well get used to it.
And Nickelodeon is definitely keeping SpongeBob on life support. He's asking to end. He's asking just to end the suffering. But yet they're like, nope, you die when we say you die.
We need the memes.
Oh, absolutely. I don't even think there are any more memes out of that. Like, I mean, at this point, does anybody even watch the new SpongeBob shows? Like,
if you look at the majority of the memes, I think most of the memes come from the first 3 seasons. Because that was Hillenberg's original plan. Was he recognized, Liam, like you were saying, the creators of Ted Lasso and a lot of these shows, everything has a shelf life. Everything must come to an end eventually, and he wanted the movie to the first movie in 2004 to kind of be like the series finale. And if you think of how the movie ends, SpongeBob's the manager of the Krusty Krab 2, and that's kind of the great resolution there. And then they renew the series and pick it back up after it was supposed to be canceled, and none of those things are ever mentioned again. It's almost as if it's like a DVD bonus feature, like What If. There's no continuity. They don't reference any of the events of it in future episodes. So it's like, what's the point of looking back at that? And then like even the episodes, like I think, there's some decent season 4, 5, and 6 episodes. And, even now today, you might have a diamond in the rough. There's one episode that's maybe better than the others. But when you look at the, overall seasons, it's clearly not the same show, but it was when we were kids growing up watching it on Nickelodeon and, was pulling in millions of viewers a night. I don't think anything on Nickelodeon is pulling in millions of viewers a night these days. And, that's not just a SpongeBob issue. I think, a lot of their live action shows are the same way. They just don't have the same, I think streaming is part of it. Not as many, people are watching cable television all across the board, but I also think the shows just simply put are not nearly as good or memorable as they were, even, as recently as 5 or 10 years ago.
Everything goes to Netflix now. Hey, we're not getting signed by CBS. We're not getting signed by Warner Brothers. Netflix will take it. We're fine. Because Netflix, got weird.
Like, even the iCarly
they used to have like all these
Paramount Plus. Yeah.
I know this has been said before, but like the fact that you have to have like 4 or 5 different streaming services just to watch good shows is very upsetting, to be honest. Because even like, I enjoy watching South Park and I want to watch the specials. I don't want to get a Paramount Plus account because then it's, oh, you like watching South Park. That means you'll like watching Late Night with Stephen Colbert. I'm like, no, I won't. Those are 2 very different things. They're just the 2 only IPs you own.
Nobody watches Stephen Colbert anymore, so I think that's just a shot in the dark for them.
Nobody watches Late Night. Nobody watches Nickelodeon.
The only good
fragmented
joke that Colbert has is he does a decent Joe Biden impression where he throws on a pair of aviators and pretends to act like he's cool. And that's actually funny. But that's it. That's the extent of it I watch. But yeah, Late Night is just dying.
You got Colbert, who is like he's a one-trick pony with his jokes now, because now it's just beating a dead horse that was dead a long time ago. You got what was it, Jimmy Fallon, who's like, oh yeah, ha, 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 and then like ducks out of the camera every single 5 seconds. And then you got Jimmy Kimmel, who's having an emotional breakdown about something going on in the world every other season. And is Seth Meyers even a thing? Like, I literally have no idea who he is.
Actually,
Like, I can't
forgot
even
he
come
had
up
a
with a
late
joke
night
for
I
him.
think, well, he has late night, right? Because Jay Leno had the Tonight Show and Fallon had late night, and then when the Fallon got promoted, I feel like Seth Meyers took over the late night show. But
And James Corden has a late night show, right? Or do we just pretend that he doesn't exist because everyone hates him?
James Corden isn't relevant.
Yeah, no, he's awful.
is he still doing that?
James
I feel
Corden
like
ruined Cats and Friends reunion. Like, buddy, there's no redeeming your career at this point.
I think part of the issue with late night, we kind of saw it with Ellen, since she was kind of like the original like daytime talk show host, and just the amount of stress it takes to put content out 5 to 6 days a week and having to do it constantly and having a big show and getting fame, it just turns the host toxic like every single time. I've heard stories of James Corden just absolutely sucking. Ellen, of course, is horrible to her staff. I'm sure it happens on every late night show. So it's just a dying format at this point. They need to bring back game shows. I love game shows. Whatever happened to those?
You just opened Pandora's box.
I'm well aware.
yeah. Well, you guys keep up with my channel. You're well aware. Yeah. Perfect segue. I'm down to talk some game shows.
There was this one show. I forget what it was called, but basically what it was called, it was super terrible. It was closer to reality TV than anything, but it was called like Truth or Something. And it was hosted by Mark Wahlberg. Not that Mark Wahlberg, it's actually a different Hollywood guy named
The Moment
Mark
of Truth?
Moment of Truth. They take two people or maybe multiple people and ask them very tough questions about their life for money. And there was literally at one point, there was a woman who had been married for like 5 years who for like $100,000 fully admitted that she cheated on her husband with her ex-boyfriend. I can't imagine they stayed together after that, but hey, they got $100,000, so God bless them.
I have
It'll
this
cover
video,
the divorce court.
Yes.
I have this video on my channel called The Chamber, the absolute worst game show ever, and I did a review of that last year, and one of the comments was actually
that one.
Yeah. One of the comments is the Moment of Truth is way worse than the show. Do that one next. And I have to admit, I've never brought myself to sit through an entire episode of it. After watching 3 episodes of The Chamber, I said, it's going to be at least a year before I can even, consider doing the Moment of Truth based on what I've heard about it. But
Moment of Truth gets rough.
Oh, no.
I've only seen that one episode in entirety, but apparently other ones have just been fiancés basically admitting they don't want to be engaged to each other. You have like some guy who basically had to admit to his mother that he was a gambling addict. The whole point of the show was apparently to try to like the truth compared to people's perception of it. And I'm like, I get what they were going for, but people suck. And they didn't account for just how awful people are.
Million subscriber special for you.
Yeah.
Moment of Truth, the review.
It's
Yeah,
that million a lot
might be a
quicker.
little while.
People want to see it.
yeah. Well, if we want to stay on the game show topic, Liam, it's funny you actually mention, they should bring it back because, there have been quite a few shows that, I think ABC has done the most of them. A lot of these shows from the 80s and 90s that, have been coming back and they're putting them in prime time as well. And I think a lot of them have turned out very well. In fact, it's funny, we were just talking about Jimmy Fallon. Fallon's kind of behind this whole Password revival that NBC's started doing these last couple of weeks.
One of my favorite shows that they had, it was like Finish the Lyric or something like that.
Don't forget the lyrics.
Don't Forget the Lyrics, yeah, where they had people doing that. I thought that was quite fun, and I really enjoyed that. It's sad they're doing it with like celebrities and songs they know. And I'm like, yeah, it's a lot better when you just have average people going on and singing. I like that more, but still a solid format.
The celebrities has got to be like a special like episode, like couple episodes, or like a charity event. Because if you just do it, then it's reality television. Like, and congratulations, Kim Kardashian won another $50,000. She makes that in a week from, you know, her makeup products. But hey, $50,000. It's like, yeah, congratulations, rich people who don't need money getting more money. This is definitely television I want to see. But I mean, I know that one of them was like, can you beat Shazam? Where it was like, finish the lyric. I think it actually was finish the lyric, and it's like you have to beat Shazam before Shazam.
Beat Shazam is the
song.
They're both Fox shows, yeah.
That one was fun, but I think the superior peak of game shows will always be Wipeout, solely for the fact that that show produced so many childhood memories for so many people. And everybody was immediately like, oh, I could easily do that. That's no problem. And then somebody who knew somebody went on the show and is like, oh no, dude, it's so hard. Like, you can't do it. It's like impossible. And like, they purposely like try to give you concussions and stuff. It's like, oh, hey, look, here's an empty thing. And then it's just immediately like a boxing glove to the dome, giving some poor, 70-year-old woman whiplash, like no regard for human safety. That's the kind of television I want to see.
I think they had it was called Steph Curry's World of Golf or something like
Holy
that.
moly.
Holy moly, yes, thank you. So they were doing that, and the first season was just like fun mini golf, and the second one they made it more Wipeout style, and that infinitely made it better.
Yeah. Have you guys seen the TBS revival of Wipeout with John Cena hosting?
I have, yes. I've seen a few episodes.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting dynamic with those two hosts, where it's like, I would have never thought to put them together, but it works too well for me to picture anybody else there. So, I mean, hey, you know what? It's good TV. And if it's making money, hey, I mean, power to them.
I want to ask you guys, I don't know if you've been following the whole Jeopardy saga these last, I guess, it's last couple of years now, thinking back to when Alex Trebek passed away. But I don't know how into the show you guys are, if you've been keeping up with the news, but have you seen the decision to split the host job between Ken Jennings and Mayim Bialik, and what do you think of that?
I get what they're doing, because I think they're trying to mix it up more, because there's only one and only Alex Trebek. Like,
of course,
no one can do it quite like he did. So I guess they're trying to give it a different feel and try it. Was Ken Jennings like the biggest winner in Jeopardy history? Was that?
Yeah, 74 straight wins and won the GOAT tournament a couple of years ago.
He deserves it, because I 100% buy into the conspiracy that Jeopardy put someone in and to purposely make him lose. 100% buy into that. That's a very
there's
no.
Not rigged. Have you? So go watch the movie Quiz Show, 1994, Best Picture nominee. That will show you exactly why there was absolutely 0% chance any game show, not just Jeopardy, not just quiz shows. There's no way you can get away with rigging any game show. It's now a federal crime, and anybody who dares even consider trying it will be behind bars for the rest of their lives. I mean, it almost brought down the entire genre.
Well, what was it
entirely? But
what was it? Press Your Luck. Some guy like memorized the patterns.
Yeah, Michael. Yeah, but see, that's not cheating. That's just beating the system and realizing exposing a loophole.
I mean, yes,
they called him a cheater, but I was like, that's called being brilliant.
Still,
yeah,
I mean, to memorize it that much, like, I mean, that takes try hard to a whole new level. But
I mean, the guy was an unemployed ice cream truck driver, so he had all the time in the world, in the middle of the day to just watch these shows and rewind the tapes. And
I even heard apparently Ken Jennings, like what he did is like he took a year off of work and legitimately like just studied everyday things about life. He read children's books. He did all this stuff for a year straight to prepare for Jeopardy. And it paid off. And he had a good strategy going into it as well. So it wasn't really bad, but I feel like Ken Jennings, definitely they rigged it against him because they wanted him to stop winning. I think he'll be a good host, but unfortunately it'll always come down to how do they compare to Alex Trebek. And again, there is only the one and only Alex Trebek cannot be compared to.
Yeah.
Some of the most emotional television these last 10 years was the last 4 Jeopardies after Alex Trebek passed. Like that last one where it was just like, oof. Like I'm getting teary-eyed just thinking about it because it was like the man was Jeopardy. Like you cannot take Alex Trebek away from Jeopardy. And it's like, and honestly, I don't even think he had like one scandal his entire career. Like the guy was just a good dude. So it's like, I mean, personally, I think Jennings would be the better pick, but I can also see Mayim Blaik also getting a job there as well. Personally, I thought Aaron Rodgers did better, but that's, he was too busy ingesting mushrooms in Puerto Rico to, actually take the Jeopardy job.
I forgot Rodgers became a really weird dude.
Yeah. Well, can we just appreciate the guest host parade that happened? Yeah. Like they brought in Aaron Rodgers. They brought in Anderson Cooper. They brought in Dr. Oz. They brought in Joe Buck. Like all these different guys that, like a lot of them are, it's like, okay, that this person has no interest in hosting the show full time. So why are we letting them audition for a week or two and giving them a turn when we should be focusing on trying to find the successor?
I could not watch the Joe Buck one because it would just be like, all right, here we have Potent Potable 200. All right, this popular beverage among I went a little William Shatner at the end there, but I hate his voice in baseball. Yeah, you gotta have some pizzazz in Jeopardy. He has no pizzazz.
Joe Buck in Jeopardy is the crossover I did not know I needed. But see, the problem is I wasn't watching it for Jeopardy. I was watching it for Joe Buck acting a fool. So it's like, while yes, it would have been great to see it happen. No, just he could never have been host.
Yeah.
I was thinking he was going to go like, he could go all the way, or, they hits it out of here at some point in the Jeopardy game. Like, I shouldn't be thinking this. But
well, and then of course you had the executive producer who threw his own hat in the ring there.
Oh yeah, and I think he said at one point he was going to be the host, and then literally everyone on Jeopardy was like, "No, you very obviously rigged this just because you want to be the host," and then he backed out. I'm like,
so,
yeah, dude, get off.
So the person who wrote that Ringer article, Claire McNear, she actually just I guess it came out a week ago today. It's going to take me a few days to get this up on my channel, obviously, but we're taping this on the 23rd. Her paperback Jeopardy book, the paperback edition of the book she released a couple years ago, came out on the 16th, so just a week ago today. And I ordered a copy because the afterword was basically the whole Mike Richards saga and what happened, the days leading up to the announcement that he was going to host, and then her putting the article together and listening to his old podcast episodes, and just the wild saga that ensued from there. But even the scandal aside and everything, I think people were a little disheartened that they had their favorites of the guest hosts that they were rooting for, and then it's like the producer, like Dick Cheney, started trending on Twitter because it was like, oh, the producer led this search and then he hires himself to be the host. And I don't think I don't doubt that Mike, obviously he has bosses himself, and Sony has some say in the final decision and everything, but I do think that he kind of rigged the system to give himself the best possible chance and disadvantage others. And even beyond that, I think people might not realize this, more casual game show fans, but Mike Richards actually auditioned to replace Bob Barker in 2007. And before he was the executive producer of The Price is Right, he had auditioned. He had done a couple of, lesser known shows. There was a, CW show called Beauty and the Geek that he hosted for a couple of years. And his audition was, it wasn't awful, it was fine. It was just, there was nothing, it stood out about him, and he was a relative unknown. So, Drew Carey ended up getting the role, which he still has to this day. But then Mike becomes the executive producer there, and he hosts a couple of cable game shows. And, I think he just wanted to host a major game show. He didn't necessarily need it to be Jeopardy. He just wanted to be a world famous game show host, if you will. And I think when you think about, what, Jeopardy means to Ken Jennings, and how passionate guys like Aaron Rodgers and LeVar Burton, said they were, before they went into their turns as guest hosts, to have the producer come in and kind of hijack the host search. And then to find out that, he ran this podcast where he was saying all these, crazy offensive things, and, to have that be uncovered, it was just, yeah. Well, I mean, I hope everybody got a good look at his 5 episodes that he hosted, because they will never be re-aired ever again. Sony's going to keep them in the vault for forever. I think. I hope somebody, taped them or has recordings of them somewhere. But like, you could just tell, like, in his intro, yeah, you could just tell that, there were some awkward cuts in the editing, and, there's something in his demeanor that just says, this is not going to last, beyond just this one taping day here. And then he steps down, and then a week and a half later, he's fired from being the executive producer. And, then they go back and forth between Ken and Mayim, and now they're going to share the role. And I have to say, I really like Michael Davies, who's running the show now. He's, he was mostly responsible for bringing Millionaire over to the States, and he's done plenty of game shows and had a lot of experience there, and he's not going to try to become the host himself. So I think that's certainly a sign of relief for Jeopardy fans, still traumatized by that whole thing. But the one decision that he's made that I've questioned is this supposed need for multiple hosts, because I think you could certainly get away with Ken just doing the daily show, and then even if you can keep Mayim doing the primetime specials like the college tournament and the celebrity specials that they're talking about bringing back, I just don't see a need to split the job of the syndicated version between the two of them. But aside from that, I think he's kind of righted the ship and brought some stability, which I think has been very good.
Very well put.
No arguments here.
No, not at all. I mean, Jeopardy is the staple of the game show world, really. So I like the hosts that they have. And yeah, people just got to judge them for what they're worth, honestly. Can't be comparing them to anyone else.
Okay, so with Ben's permission, I'm going to do one last 2 real, 1 fake news, just for the old craps and giggles. So, because I am so well prepared, as you could tell by my incoherent rambling throughout the entire time. So, lottery winner arrested for relieving herself on her boss's desk. Death Valley reports claim that a 41-year-old woman has been arrested for defecating on her boss's desk. After winning the lottery, she exclaimed, "I don't need this bleeping job anymore. You can eat what I left on your desk." Authorities then arrested her for defecation, indecent exposure, and why?
Is this coming out of Florida, or is this somewhere else?
Believe it or not, no, it was Death Valley. And the lottery ticket was for $50,000. So it's not even like you or yeah.
A year,
millions of shares on social media.
She must have hated that job.
Yeah, you leave that job here.
Scratch a lottery ticket. It's like, oh, you won $50, and she'd do like the same reaction.
Absolutely. A woman branded as a Karen for requesting a discount from her cleaner because she drank the water. After praising a cleaner for doing a great job, one woman left people stunned after admitting she requested a partial refund from the worker after she refilled her water bottle in her home. The woman from Belfast the cleaner from Belfast claimed that the person asked to reduce, or her client claimed, as I can't actually read because I'm dyslexic anymore. Requested a partial refund because she saw on the Ring camera that her water bottle was refilled using their water, and since water's expensive, they wanted a refund. I really, really just water. Are we gonna?
I don't know.
That
That sounds real. That sounds too believable to me.
Yeah, I wonder why you got labeled a Karen.
I've heard of stories before where like there was a house cleaner for someone who cleaned like someone's big beautiful Bel Air mansion, but filled up the bucket with their own tap, with like their tap water. Like, oh, we want you to pay us back for that. And she goes, you realize a gallon of water costs about 0.05 cents, right? I definitely use less than a gallon. You want me to pay you back not even a cent? Okay, fine.
Just leave a penny on the door. Just tape it to the door. That's how you do it. All right, and the last one. Florida man taken to the hospital with minor injuries after being attacked by a squirrel after he took a selfie with it in the Florida Everglades. The man was treated for minor scrapes and given a rabies shot after a squirrel attacked him after a selfie. Florida.
You just said Florida.
All you need to know.
Like, it's probably true.
All right, well,
yeah, is always true.
Yeah, I feel like it as amusing as the first story is, that seems a little too ridiculous to me. The other two feel like, especially since you were doing this on, such short notice here. I think, those two seem a little more, not to say that they're not crazy, but I feel like those are within the realms of possibility that somebody might be, a little bit out there and end up with a story like that.
So I gotta say the Florida man one is true, just because it's Florida. I have no other reason. I've heard of similar stories happening with the second one. So the first one sounds crazy, but I think the first one is fake. Like this is hard. I haven't done these in a while. I'm actually not 100% certain on which one it is. But I gotta go with my gut. I gotta say the first one.
All right, both of you saying the first one? Yep, yes. Nope, the first one was a lie. I literally got that from a fake news website called Mappy, where they literally, I wanted to do this one, but I know it wouldn't work for Liam. Pope Francis endorsed President Trump as presidential candidate. But I know you guys would have cut that one out. So
yeah,
fast.
No, that yeah. I definitely would have heard about that if that was true. But
dude, that would have been everywhere. Just immediately, like all of a sudden, you just have a whole bunch of redneck conservatives going to the Catholic Church. We support you now. Woohoo!
We bring guns into the church. That's what you need. Wow. Yeah, no, it's at this point again, we say it every time, it's just like every story is just so insane that it could possibly be true. Like I remember at the Met Gala last year when AOC wore a dress that said tax the rich, and it was like a $15,000 dress. It was, the irony was not lost on anyone, and I was just like looking at it on my phone, I'm like, is this photoshopped? Is this supposed to say something different? And I like scroll. No, I see it. Yeah. Well, I guess it's real.
And then we have the Mar-A-Lago Raid, which is just like, okay. This kind of does, like, I first saw it. I'm like, nah, this can't be real. Like, there's no reason they would actually. Oh my gosh, they raided the president's house, former president's house. Excuse me. Don't want Ben to get taken down for any sort of election talk.
Yeah, it would be very.
They're not commenting on that, YouTube, please. Yes. All right.
Dear YouTube team, I have a completely neutral stance about all political issues. Please do not demonetize this video.
But by saying you have a neutral political stance, you're making a political stance, so you're still in trouble.
Dang it. So close.
YouTube will always get you. They'll always get you.
Well, I think that's the perfect place to wrap it up, and a good note to end on. So, Liam, Chase, thank you guys so much once again. It was great to have another conversation with both of you, and anytime you guys want to come back on the show, any major story breaks that you want a platform to voice your strong opinions on or anything like that, you know where to find me, and I'd be happy to stay in touch with you guys, because like I said, I think it's been far too long since we spoke face to face. I know we're constantly messaging each other and things like that, but it's good to actually sit down, and even if it's through a computer screen and all virtual, to still have an actual conversation. It's a nice opportunity.
Yeah, of course, man. We'll be here for episode 100.
Yes, well, hopefully we get to episode 100. I know I've slowed down a little bit, but I gotta now that I've purchased this Zoom software, so we don't have to cut in and out every 40 minutes. I think I have to start doing some more episodes to justify the purchase. So we'll see how quickly we get there.
No, thank you for having us on, Ben. This has been fantastic. Hopefully we can see each other in person again soon.
Yeah. Just let me know, guys. I don't know if you're ever in the Philly area. You just give me a call and we can set something up. But I might try to make it up to Gordon for Pop Crawl, because I know that's coming up next month. So I might try to get to a meet or something, in the future.
I'll see if I can actually I actually think I'm actually gonna be free for that. I can actually go to a meet. Oh wow. It's like the first time I can actually go out and do stuff. I actually have free time on my hands now. But
well, either way, let's make sure we stay in touch, and I'll let you both get on with the rest of your nights, but until then, we'll talk to you soon. Have a good night.
All right, thank you, Ben.
All right, take care, man.
All right.